6 months after walking out of his marriage, Malik Johnson, the man everyone in Chicago called the most ruthless CEO, was about to sign the biggest deal of his life. But when he turned around at a quiet cafe one winter afternoon, his confident hands froze midair. There, standing only a few steps away, was his ex-wife cradling a baby in her arms. A baby that looked just a little too familiar. In that moment, Malik's world stopped, and what happened next would change both of their lives forever. If this story touched your heart, show your love. Like, share, and comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Sunny Spot. Malik Johnson was the kind of man people noticed before he even spoke. Tall, immaculately dressed, with an aura of control that could silence a boardroom, he had built his empire from nothing. At 38, he had wealth, power, and influence. Everything except the one thing he had once cherished most, his marriage. His divorce from Nia, just 6 months earlier, had been a tragedy whispered about in every elite circle of Chicago. No one ever thought they would separate. They had been college sweethearts, partners in everything. A love story that people admired from afar. But beneath the surface, cracks had grown, silent battles had been fought, and in the end, pride had done what neither of them ever thought possible. It broke them apart. Nia Williams had loved Malik once with a devotion so pure that she believed nothing could touch it. She was 35 now, graceful in her simplicity, carrying a quiet strength that most people overlooked. She wasn't from wealth, nor did she care about luxury. What she wanted was something Malik had stopped giving her long ago. His time, his presence, his willingness to see her as more than just an accessory to his success. While Malik's company thrived, Nia's heart withered. The endless late nights at the office, the missed dinners, the way his phone calls always seemed more important than her voice. It all piled up until love felt like loneliness. When the divorce was finalized, it left both of them shattered in different ways. Malik buried himself in his work, convincing himself he had done what was necessary, that Nia deserved someone more attentive, someone who wasn't married to his career. Nia, on the other hand, retreated from the world, moving quietly out of their penthouse into a modest apartment where no one knew her as the ex-wife of a billionaire CEO. But fate has a way of weaving stories in silence. It was a frosty afternoon when Malik saw her again. He had just wrapped up a high-profile meeting at a downtown hotel and decided to step into a nearby cafe to escape the swarm of reporters outside. He ordered black coffee, loosened his tie, and for once allowed himself to breathe. That's when he noticed her, Nia, standing by the counter with a stroller beside her. His chest tightened. She looked almost the same, yet different, softer, stronger, and in her arms was a baby girl, no more than a few months old, with bright brown eyes that carried an unsettling resemblance to his own. Malik's hand froze around his cup. He didn't blink. Could it be? Nia noticed him, too. Her body tensed, and for a moment time itself seemed to hold its breath. Their eyes met across the room, and everything, the good memories, the bitter fights, the unspoken words, came flooding back. She instinctively adjusted the blanket around the baby, as if shielding her from his gaze. Malik stood, his voice low but firm. "Nia, whose child is that?" Her lips trembled before she spoke. "She's mine, Malik. Mine." The room felt smaller, the noise of clinking cups and chatter fading into nothing. Malik's throat tightened. His logical mind, the one that built billion-dollar deals, was suddenly helpless against the storm of emotions tearing through him. He had never known Nia to move on so quickly. And yet the baby, those eyes, that familiar dimple when she cooed. "Mine," he repeated, his voice rough. "Nia, tell me the truth. Is she mine?" Nia didn't answer immediately. Instead, she gathered the baby closer and walked toward the door. But Malik was faster. He reached her side before she could leave, his presence towering, but not intimidating. This time desperate. "Please," he whispered, "don't walk away again." Nia looked up at him, her eyes shining with pain. "You walked away first, Malik. You let me go when all I wanted was you." The words struck him harder than any business loss ever could. For the first time in years, Malik didn't feel like a CEO. He felt like a man who had failed the one person who mattered most. His gaze fell back to the baby, who gurgled softly, as if unaware of the storm swirling around her. "I need to know, Nia," Malik said, his voice breaking. "If she's mine, if she's ours. Tears filled Nia's eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "She's yours. Her name is Zoe." The weight of 6 months of anger, regret, and emptiness collapsed inside him all at once. Malik's knees nearly buckled, and he sank into the nearest chair. His baby, their baby, a daughter he hadn't even known existed. The cafe suddenly felt too public for the tidal wave of emotions crashing over them. Malik motioned for Nia to sit, but she hesitated. She had raised Zoe alone since birth, choosing silence over reaching out to the man who had once chosen ambition over her. She feared his world would swallow her daughter the way it had swallowed their marriage. But something in Malik's eyes, raw, unguarded, made her pause. He reached forward, his hands trembling, and gently touched Zoe's tiny fingers. The baby wrapped them around his thumb instinctively, and something inside him shattered. A man who had spent his life controlling everything now realized he had no control over the most important thing. Time he had already lost with his child. "I should have been there," Malik whispered. "I should have known. Nia, why didn't you tell me?" Nia's voice broke. "Because you weren't the man who would have cared. Not then. I didn't want Zoe to grow up fighting for your attention the way I did. I had to protect her." Malik's jaw clenched, his heart breaking under the weight of truth. He wanted to argue, to defend himself, to insist that he would have cared, but deep down he knew Nia was right. He hadn't been present. He had failed her. Yet here was a chance, fragile and fleeting, to make things right. He looked at Nia, determination glinting through his tears. "Then let me prove it now. Give me a chance to be your father. Please." Nia searched his face, torn between old wounds and the faintest flicker of hope. Could people truly change? Could a man who once chose power over love learn to choose differently now? For the first time in months, she didn't answer with words. She simply let Malik hold Zoe, and as he cradled his daughter for the first time, the cold, untouchable CEO everyone knew melted away. What remained was just a father, broken, regretful, and desperate for redemption. And though Nia wasn't ready to forgive, she couldn't deny one thing. Something had begun to shift. The days that followed their unexpected reunion were heavy with unspoken words. Malik couldn't stop thinking about Zoe, the way her tiny fingers curled around his, the way her laugh carried the same softness Nia once had when they were young. He tried reaching out, calling Nia, but she kept her distance. Trust was not something she could offer easily, not after years of being overlooked and months of raising a child alone. But Malik was not the same man he had been 6 months ago. For the first time, he began stepping out of boardrooms and into a world he had ignored for far too long. He canceled meetings, ignored calls, and showed up outside Nia's apartment, not with expensive gifts, but with groceries, diapers, and sometimes simply himself, waiting for a chance to prove he wasn't going anywhere. At first, Nia resisted. She told herself it was temporary, that Malik would soon return to his empire and forget about promises. But slowly, she saw something in him she had never seen before. Patience. He didn't demand forgiveness, didn't try to buy his way back into her life. Instead, he sat on her couch late at night, rocking Zoe to sleep, whispering lullabies in a voice he didn't even know he had. One evening, as a snowstorm painted the city white, Nia walked into the living room to find Malik fast asleep on the couch with Zoe lying on his chest. For a moment, she just stood there, her heart torn. This was the man she had once begged to come home earlier to notice the small things. Now he was here, not for her, but for their daughter. And that's when Nia realized something. People don't always change because of love for themselves. Sometimes they change because of the love they discover in someone new. Weeks later, Malik invited Nia and Zoe to his company's charity gala. Nia hesitated but agreed, if only for Zoe. The night was glittering, filled with powerful names and dazzling lights. But for Malik, none of it mattered. As he stood on stage giving his annual speech, he paused, his voice trembling as he looked directly at Nia and their daughter. "This year," he said, "I don't want to talk about profits or achievements. I want to talk about second chances. For years, I believe success meant building an empire. But true success, true legacy is family. Tonight, I dedicate everything I've built to my daughter, Zoe, and to the woman who gave me the gift of being her father." The room fell silent. Cameras flashed. But Malik didn't care about headlines. All he cared about was the single tear that escaped Nia's eyes. The first tear not of pain, but of something closer to hope. After the gala, Malik didn't press for reconciliation. Instead, he walked Nia and Zoe to their car, kissed his daughter gently on the forehead and whispered, "I'll keep showing up as long as it takes." Nia looked at him for a long moment, her heart still cautious, but undeniably softened. "Then don't stop," she finally said. And so began a new chapter. Not the fairy tale of two lovers rushing back into each other's arms, but something even stronger. A slow rebuilding, brick by brick, of trust, of love, of family. 6 months after divorce had broken them apart, a baby had brought them together. Not perfectly, not instantly, but with enough light to guide them forward. Because sometimes life doesn't give you a second chance at love. It gives you a reason to create one. True success isn't in wealth, but in the relationships we fight to keep.